Welcome Gemini, it's your in-depth monthly forecast for January 2025 for the Ascendant, the Sun or the Moon. I'm going to share some standout details, particularly relevant to your sign, but please stay with me. On screen, I'll share your event chart right at the start of the month and of course the year. That provides some telling information. Then, as influences unfold, I'll go through those frame by frame to give you a clear understanding of what January 2025 holds in store. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell, wishing you all the best for year 2025. If you're new to my channel, thank you for joining me. This is very much a community. If you have any thoughts, please do share them. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, we have found that 50% of people who regularly watch my videos are not subscribers. Please help the channel to thrive. Click that sub button, but also the bell notification symbol. Also, please like and share my videos too. If you'd like to order your year 2025 personal forecast based on your unique birth data, if you order in 24, you'll get the rest of the year free. In 25, you'll get a full 12 months from the time of the order. You'll also get my free gift of your zodiac, general, love, Chinese and Vedic forecast, as well as 30% off and your life roadmap report. Your life roadmap report is particularly influential because this helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far. The forecast helps you to time your moves, because knowing when the planets are helping or perhaps resisting your efforts is a critical feature of working with astrology. If you'd like to order from a whole sign perspective, a solar perspective if you don't know your time, draconic perspective if you'd like your soul perspective, please see the links below for more. Also, if you'd like to have a one-to-one with me, I am a consulting astrologer. Please check out my testimonials below and you can read exactly what people have said. I don't edit these at all. So Gemini, right at the start of this year, your ruler Mercury is in your sector of relating, pretty well opposite Jupiter in your sign. Jupiter is about opportunities, growth, can be about good fortune, but it is in retrograde. But both those planets can give you a sense of real positivity and possibility, but they are T-squared by the planet of resistance, Saturn, and that's in a worldly part of your scope. So if you're really setting your intentions for the new year and you set them high, they could be tested quite soon, because Jupiter and Saturn are within 3 degrees through the first 2 weeks of this new year. So that's a critical feature. You're also going to see Mercury, however, end its post-retrograde shadow on the 3rd of January. If there have been some cross wires around relationships since the end of November, misunderstandings, or you're waiting to hear from someone or waiting to hear back on a contract, you could get good news. Also, you're going to see Mercury, your ruler, move on the 8th into the part of your chart that's brilliant for business, long-term financial planning, getting under the surface of things and grappling with the details in a forensic way. Your finances do come into sharp relief on the 13th with a full moon, but as the month goes on, there's an expansive vibe that's starting to develop for you, not least that your ruler Mercury moves into your sister air sign of Aquarius on the 28th and crests into a glorious new moon with the Sun, but also Pluto on the 29th. If ever there was a chance to plot a new optimistic future, it's certainly primed up from that point. So Gemini, on the 3rd, that opposition between Mars and Pluto reaches a peak. A lot of tension, because if we think about it, Mars can be quite impulsive. So in the 3rd house, I'll say what I want to say. It's a bit like having Mars in Gemini. It can be very frank and very to the point. But having Pluto in the 9th house, that's more about power. There's going to be a lot of tension going around the heavens for everyone, to be honest. But also on the 3rd, Venus, the planet of relating, moves into the part of your chart which is to do with your work. And that can help the position of Saturn, particularly when they come into alliance in the third week. For example, if you go for an interview and your diplomacy Venus matches your intent and seriousness about the role, Saturn, you could come across as a very compelling candidate. But unfortunately, it's one of those aspects that can have completely the opposite effect. So if you work with people you don't like very much, those relationships can really chill down as the month goes on. But also on the 3rd, Mercury does end that post-retrograde shadow, which is great news, and can see some clarity come out of a relationship which has stumbled. But on the 6th, Mars inverts back into the sign of Cancer. Mars in Cancer can be a bit prickly, defensive, a bit moody, a bit up and down, but very passionate about protectiveness. And for you, the sign of Cancer is the 2nd house. That's everyday money. It's also your self-worth. If someone's pushing back at you and not recognising your value, right through to the 18th of April, you're going to stand up for your rights strongly. Good for you. But it is retrograde still to the 24th of February. Just bear that in mind. But there is a murky link between Mercury, your ruler, and Neptune in the early part of this month. So although Venus does move into your sector of success, goals, ambition, worldly attraction, joining up with Saturn, Neptune's there too, and that clashes with Mercury at the start of this month. So fact can be stranger than fiction when these two are in a tense angle. So if you're trying to clarify things, you really need to make sure that you double down on that. So for example, if there has been a bit of a misunderstanding, despite Mercury coming out of the post-retrograde shadow, send a confirming email or a text message just to make sure the other person really knows where you're coming from. But on the 8th, Mercury moves into the sign of Capricorn. Now, Mercury likes being in Capricorn because Mercury's thinking faculties and analytical faculties and desire for precision through the sign of Virgo is amplified. So because Mercury is about business, the merchant, the marketeer, and Capricorn is very much about those topics too, and for you as the 8th house, this gives you an opportunity, particularly if you're determined to get to grips with your finances at the start of this year, and because of the Cancer full moon on the 13th and Mars applying to that, that's going to make you very passionate about getting what is rightly yours. So if you're in a relationship, say for example you work with someone and you haven't had a rise for a few years, other people in the office or the factory have, it's something you're really not going to be happy about. But Mercury can help you to ferret out the details and become much more informed of the finer parts of what you need to know and present your argument in a very shrewd and business-like way. So if you're trying to raise finance, start a business, perhaps setting up some personal protection in terms of your long-term future, so pension plans, insurances, wills, all this kind of stuff could be something you're thinking about, particularly through that very powerful full moon. But if you are dealing with someone who tends to be a bit unpredictable about their approach to finance, whether it is a personal partner or it is a friend or a family member, that can put you a little bit on edge. But the true nodal switch, the North Node to Pisces, house 10 for you, South to 4 on the 13th, right through to the end of July 2026. This really is asking you to work very hard this year on work-life balance, because as the year goes on and the eclipses start to unfold across those two signs, despite the fact that Neptune and Saturn both go into Aries for a period, they actually do afflict virtually all those eclipses. So if you're not quite satisfied with your worldly connections or your home situation, or they're a bit out of kilter, one time after another there can be things that happen that prove to be somewhat testing, to be honest. Now on the 19th you really get a breath of air and the potential for release. If you are someone who loves skiing, for example, and you want to get away from it or to go and enjoy some snow, the sun moving into your ninth house of travel can certainly give you greater impetus to go for it. But equally, it can give you the desire just to bring greater variety to your life. Now, I don't need to tell a Gemini about the need for stimulation. I have a very Gemini type chart. You know, my Mercury position and Sun both in house 3, and my draconic chart, the Sun and Mercury both in Gemini in house 3. So I kind of get that need for constant data or news in order to keep me switched on. But that could be something that really calls out to you in the last 10 days of this month. And if you have been dealing with some deep and heavy stuff, that need to have a bit of escapism or to travel or to change things up is really going to be something that can be very positive for you. But the last 2 weeks also sees Mars in your second house, remember, of everyday finance, forging a link to Uranus in your 12th house. When it comes to your financial situation, you could benefit from all skills, knowledge and experiences, but in some way repurpose in a fresh manner Uranus. And that could actually, doing something quite bold, could pay off for you very well indeed. But there's also a link between Mars and Neptune, suggesting your imagination can be good for your finance, as well as your past experiences and knowledge. But the 28th sees Mercury join up with the Sun in the 9th house. So that desire for travel, learn new skills, apply for a course is definitely amped up. We then have the new moon of the 29th in Aquarius, conjunct Mercury, but also critically Pluto. So across the 21st, the Sun and Pluto are exactly conjunct. A repetition of last year when Pluto moved on its birthday into Aquarius, but this time of course Pluto's there for the long term. So if there is something you want to publish, something you want to broadcast, you know, through a blog or just going on TikTok, and you know, if there's something you want to say to people that you feel is really important, the end of this month is going to be the time when you're turning up the volume. But also Uranus does go direct on the 30th, the co-ruler and the modern ruler of Aquarius, but that has been locked in reverse since the end of August for you, which may not have been great for your nervous system at times. So that can also create some release. But if you can do something completely different as January comes to a close, it's definitely going to be good for your soul. But I think that this is going to be a year when how you connect to the world at large is going to be the big story, and how it feels, the South Node energy and the eclipses in Virgo, that is going to feed into the narrative of how successful you can be. A great month, and do check out your year 2025 deep dive video by clicking on the link underneath this one.